Hey YouTube followers, this is Brandon Montgomery coming at you with a new video. In my last couple of videos I've been demonstrating some of my DevOps abilities, and in my Kubernetes video I mentioned I was studying for my CCAD certification, which to update you that I've passed. I'm currently working on some AWS certs and wanted to show off what I've been able to do in just a few hours of playing around with AWS and Terraform. In this video, I'm going to be using Terraform to deploy a cluster of one master and two worker nodes to AWS. And then after a few updates to configuration, I will deploy with my home GitLab server a Python Flask app to AWS, then destroying everything. So sit back and enjoy the video. Okay, I wanted to start off by showing that there are no instances running on my AWS console. And we're going to go back here and show you a little bit of code. So this will show you that this is what it's going to be running. No one in the world can take you down. That's a Karate Kid reference. It's going to be on port 8080. And now we're going to do the Terraform part. Do Terraform init. This initializes your Terraform states, gets it ready. Then we're going to do Terraform plan, and this will give you a preview on what it's going to create. So this will show you, there's my Flask, there's my master, and my two worker nodes that it's going to be create. And then that kubeconfig is how we're going to connect to the Kubernetes cluster. We'll do Terraform apply, and then you type yes to say you want to continue. Okay, this part's going to take just a little bit, so I'm going to fast forward this part. Okay, so we should be getting pretty close here. Looks like everything's set up. Let's go check. Yep, it looks like we've got our 3 instances now running. Okay, as you can see here, we have our cluster up and running. Now it shows not ready. The reason for that is we have to install WeaveNet, and in order to get that WeaveNet to run, we have to update containerd. So I'm going to be running through these 3 servers, and I'm going to be updating containerd, and then we'll install the WeaveNet, so that way we've got a network running between our pods, our nodes, and then we can do a deployment. So I'm just going to kind of run it here. You can just kind of view the screen and see how I'm getting these updated to the latest version of containerd, so that way the WeaveNet can install. Okay, next we need to install the WeebNet. As you can see, these still show as not ready. So in order to do that, we need to install the WeebNet. So let me go here. I need to copy the command, and it's just a one-line command that installs a YAML file. So let me go ahead and do that. Sorry, this will take just a second. And you have to run this so that way it uses the config to connect to our Kubernetes cluster. Now you can probably do like an alias or something else, but just for this tutorial, I'm just going to kind of copy and paste it just so we can connect. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay, now it's creating the WeebNet. I'll go and check our nodes. And sometimes it takes a minute. There we go. Okay, now you can see that they're all showing as ready. And now we're able to start deploying containers to these nodes. And we'll do our deployment here. But before we can do that, we do need to update the containerd config so that way it can connect to our GitLab repository and pull the images down from that GitLab repository. So let's go, and we'll have to edit this on at least the worker nodes. So I'm just going to pull up the file here so you can see it. So this is the file, and then in this section here, I'm going to highlight it. This is where you'd put all of your information to connect to your GitLab repository. So that's what I'm going to be pasting in here. So I'm just going to stop it here, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so the next step is to we're going to create labels for the node for our deployment, so that way it will only deploy the container to the node that we want it to. So we're going to label it as @flask. It looks like I misspelled label there. Let me try rerunning that again. Okay, and the next thing, I'd like to set this up. All my YAML files are in the dev namespace. So we're going to create a dev namespace to put everything. And the next thing we're going to do is create a Flask service to route the traffic to the containers. Make sure it's in that new dev namespace. And then we're going to create an ingress to route incoming traffic using the service to the containers. Okay, so now We're going to go ahead and do a deployment locally, and then once that's done, we'll run some updates and changes to show that it's done a full new deployment and shows our changes through AWS. So I've got a deployment YAML here I'm going to run. And if you look here at our nodes, it should show. Oops, I forgot to put in the conf file. Oh, and the dev. So now you can see in there, it does show our deployment, but it's showing an error image pool. That's just because the deployment is using an older image. So let's set this to one that we've got that's current. Okay, and the way that we're going to do that is we're going to, pushed up to my repo the new config file that we got. So we're going to run this. It's going to build a new image, and then it's going to do a deployment. So it's basically going to update the Kubernetes cluster to the new image. Let's run the first job here, and all this does is it's going to build my image and save it into my repo. And normally it fails on the first time. I don't know if it's just a connection issue or not, so I'll just rerun it here again. And there we go, job successful. Go back here and we'll run the deployment part. And this uses that config file that we've been using to connect to the Kubernetes cluster to update the deployment image to the newly created image. And there we go. Let's go back to our cluster. And since we're doing a rolling deployment, you'll see it's terminating the old ones and creating the new ones. And just takes a moment here while those delete, because it has to delete the previous containers before the new deployment will start working because of the rolling deployment. And since we are using just the bare minimum on these servers, okay, so now we can show that it's deleting that last pod. The two new ones are now running. And then the next step that we're going to have to do is add the container, or I shouldn't say the container, the node for these to the load balancer so it knows where to route the traffic to. So let's go in here and get what node it's on. And get the IP for that. And we're just going to patch our load balancer. with the IP here. And this was a different one that I was running before, so we're just going to paste over that with the new one. Okay, now that's updated. Okay, now we're going to need to create a load balancer within AWS. So we'll just name it Flask. Just make sure and get the right information here. Look at my instances, because we're going to just do app-based load balancing. Okay, just validating information here. Sure, get the right region. Okay, there's that one there. Let's make sure we get it in the right ones. Just like those. I'm just going to add the right groups here. And we're using this on port 8080. Port 8080. Check, make sure I got it all right. Okay. Sure I got my tech groups. That's been created now. I want it for both my workers. Create that. Okay, refresh it so target groups. Okay, so now that should be creating. And this will take a minute for it to show up provisioning. So I'm going to fast forward this part. Okay, so now that's showing is provisioned. We're going to copy the new site, and as you can see, now it's showing what I had in my Flask app. You'll see those two match. So now we're going to do this as a new deployment, so we're going to change it as if we're going to make a change to our app and then deploy it. So we'll save this, push this up to the repo, which will create the new jobs in the pipeline. So, okay, it's been pushed. Let's go back to GitLab. And there's our new pipeline. Build our new image, which this will have the new You're the Best Around on there. It's pretty quick on building the image. Okay, that's green. Now we'll do deploy, and all the deploy does is update the deployment to grab and fetch the new image from the GitLab repository. Okay, that's now green. So now if we go and check our cluster here, it should be terminating the old ones, keeping one running because it's a rolling deployment. And again, this may take just a minute for it to delete the old containers and run the new ones. So I'm going to fast forward this part. Okay, so now you'll see the two new pods are running, and then the old deployment, the old container is terminating. So now if we refresh our page, there we go. Now it's showing our new changes. So now we're going to go here to Terraform, and we're going to destroy. And now it's going to start breaking down everything. And we want to go ahead and apply that. Okay, and then I'm just going to fast forward through this part here and show you once it's done destroying everything through Terraform. Okay, now that everything's destroyed, let's go back to AWS, and if you look here, it shows all of my instances are now terminated. Yeah, and that's the end of my presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And hopefully I'll bring some more DevOps tutorials in the future. Thank you.